Welcome to the Data Talks podcast. And today I have the opportunity to introduce you to Derek. We're in the Granite Bank building right now. He was awesome enough to come over today and kind of talk about what he does in his role, how data relates and all that. Derek, why don't you introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Tyler. So my name is Derek Soppeland, and I'm with Granite Bank. I'm a Senior Vice President of Commercial Lending. Basically, it comes down to I am a business lender. Any business owners or entrepreneurs, if they're looking for business loans for equipment, lines of credit to help with their working capital needs or inventory or seasonality, that's a good reason why somebody might have a line of credit. Also, we provide commercial real estate loans. So if you're a business owner and you're going to expand and you want to buy the building you're in or look to buy a building down the road, that's similar business lending. And then one step further, if you have a W-2 job and you have rental properties, we can provide rental property loans too. So
Nice.
That's business purpose, right? So anything and everything that's related to business, working with entrepreneurs, business owners, CPAs. So there's a lot of people and connections, and you'd be amazed. The guy down the street, your neighbors, everybody. There's people are always interested in trying to do the next thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Granite Bank. We're in Champlin. We have 2 locations. We're also in Cold Spring, and there's about, I'd say, 50 employees. We also started up a mortgage company 2 years ago called Granite Mortgage, and we have several loan officers throughout the whole country, really. So we're almost in, I want to say 45 plus states here.
Oh, wow.
And I think in total, there's about 75 loan officers available to help people for mortgages. A couple other things I just want to pitch real quick is we are a full service bank. And because we have 2 locations, logistics people really are concerned about that. However, with online banking and technologies, your cash is presentable on your computer and you can move it around electronically. As well as for the consumer, you can make mobile deposits from your phone. So just take a picture of your checks, you can make a deposit. Obviously, people have direct payroll, so that helps. Mm-hmm. But then to retrieve your money, ATM cards has historically been, I'm older, so I go to the ATM, get cash, but people don't use cash as much. So we have debit cards. You can use Venmo, any other opportunity to send your money out and pay your friends or your businesses. So full service bank, love deposits. So even if you're not a business lending customer of mine, I'm certainly happy to provide you with deposit related products for consumers and businesses and consumer loans, through car loans, home equity lines. And then one last thing, throw in for my role, being a small bank, I quarterback everything. So people who are just interested about the bank or the products and services, I'm going to help you navigate where you want to go from there. So setting up that checking account and or those business loans. So that's a lot. Awesome. But I do it a lot and I love it. It's so great. 30 years in banking.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek, for the introduction. I actually learned a little bit about more of your stuff. Might be in touch about that.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that it gives like a brief history. Actually, before we hopped on this podcast, I would love to hear the history when you started. You said it was like 1995 and when you started banking. So I'd love to, if you don't mind, maybe a quick history on that'd be super cool. How you started from, what was it, pen and paper or pencil and paper?
Oh yeah.
So I would love to hear that.
So we're just touching on technology before we got started, and so I've been in banking since 1995. Started as a teller and worked my way up, and that's also what I love, is just having that background of touching a lot of different positions in the banking, but going into the lending side of it and working my way up. But I was telling Tyler when I started, technology is so evolved that the old school lenders, what I'll call the old gentlemen when I started, 40, 50-year-olds, they were doing all their data, taking it on. We had a brown manila folder and they'd write out comments, dates in the comments in their stuff, and they were doing their pencil and paper underwriting. And it was cool to see, very, very much pen and paper. And I don't even know how fast it evolved back then. It just seems like it was yesterday. But I don't recall, maybe even just doing a little bit of typewriter stuff too. But then with computer technology, now I enter it all in. I use Word and spreadsheets. Excel is like my favorite thing in the world, but it's just come so far. So back in 95, yeah, and pre 95. And I can even remember we had these big monster file folders, and data was kept in the file folder. And then we had a secure room where we'd lock up these folders, and we had a rolling index at one of the banks I worked at. It was just, unbelievable. And now the 3-hole punch and the 2-hole punches are not being utilized. They're collecting dust. So, but
It's really cool.
yeah, that's the evolvement since I've been in banking in 1995, and there's many more. I mean, we could go on different versions of what has or hasn't changed. Obviously, data has been kept electronically pre that, but I just remember looking at those footnotes and laughing how they were doing pen and paper underwriting.
Yeah, that's crazy. Actually, you know what? I don't know do you know when, I don't know if you know the answer to this. You probably do. When did computers start being like widely used in data entry in computers? Do you know like approximate year?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
That's tough? Okay.
Yeah, I just really struggle with answering that because, again, your banking information has been available. And I guess I was just referencing, I would have to say at the start of the computers back in the 80s, for sure.
Okay.
And working its way in the 90s. Just my guess. Don't quote me as being an expert on that today.
Okay.
So.
All right. Yeah, it's just obviously with how we went from pen and paper, how computers evolved, and then how at least everything, the data up we do here, banking is like all electronic, right? Yeah. Still do some paper checks, legal documents through you guys, but more other than that, yeah, it's all digital.
Yeah, people are not. They open up a checking account. That ATM card that I reference is hardly ever used. One who wants to pay a fee to get their money out of the bank, but moving your money around electronically is it's first rate. You can move it the same day with the Venmo and the Cash Apps and all that stuff. But wires have always been the tool for guaranteed funds. So if I were to purchase a car or something and I was going to acquire that and pay the gentleman, instead of walking around with cash, you could wire the money. There's ACH has developed from being a 2 to 3 day process to being the same day. In fact, it's actually live. Not my specialty area, deposit cash management, but it's there. You can literally walk in the bank and ask to have your money transferred from this bank to that bank via ACH the same day.
Wow.
Same day ACH. I'll talk about that or say that. And clearly, Venmo or Cash App are very popular amongst the younger generation. Paper checks, though, yeah, I still give out checkbooks, but the checks are far and few between. It also, paper checks, the problem with it is it's a good way to give out your banking information, and that's a big issue with fraud. Right at the bottom of every check is it's going to be your routing number and your account number.
Right.
Issuing that to even your neighbor, or if you're going in to pay at the local fast food place.
Yeah.
You're subject to that.
Yeah. That's true. It is on the bottom. Everything.
It's at the bottom.
And
you just
your
gave your
address,
account number.
and your name, everything. Yeah.
It's
true.
Scams and frauds are, pretty prevalent in the electronic world right now.
Okay. Cool. I know we chatted about this a little bit before too, but how are you using like data to influence like the loan approval process? If you don't mind diving into that, I would love to hear your perspective on that.
For every business customer and or consumer customer, we're going to get their financial information, which is going to include personal tax returns, an application of some sort, which is probably a personal financial statement. So we're going to collect all that data. And so one, we need storage because we're not keeping those old file folders, as I mentioned earlier, but we're going to take that data and we're going to enter it into software packages that we use for spreadsheets and models that'll spit out. So there's big words that we like to use in the underwriting world for like debt service coverage on the business side of it, or debt to income would be the underwriting tool for the consumer loans. But that data and those ratios, all the ratios that we use, we're going to put into a spreadsheet, as well as once we collect that data, we pull credit bureaus. So there's more data we're pulling in from third parties. So we're going to review the historical information and repayment ability from the individual owners and or guarantors, or if it's consumer loan, credit bureaus are very instrumental. So that data is giving us information to determine on repayment ability. So it's one way that we're collecting data and utilizing it in spreadsheets or analysis purposes. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, so once you collect all that data, right, and you have all the different data points, then you guys, or even in your role specifically, you can make a decision. Yes, we're going to give out the loan, or we'll give out the loan, but a lot less than what you asked for, or you're just not approved. So I'm making those assumptions, but is that typically how you go about using the data at your fingertips and make a decision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
all that data that we take in and we do this underwriting, it's every client is going to have a decision made on what the request is. It does take a lot of time and energy. I might know the answer before I even do all this underwriting process.
Okay.
But the real down and dirty nitty gritty work that I have to do is on every file or loan, I do have to document it and put it into an underwriting format so others who are reviewing the file or reviewing my decision making can see for themselves why I made that decision.
Okay.
It's not just for post-mortem purposes too, because when loans go bad, you always want to know what happened or what was the ingredients to the decision making. But so on every loan, we're going to enter that data into a loan comment if we want to be real short and sweet, if it's just not it's any cookie cutter general loan. But on loans of 50 to 100,000 up to $1 million or a few $1,000,000, we're going to do some real down and dirty work. And we have a report that we're putting it into in different banking environments might be called a credit presentation or a loan presentation. That report can be 5 pages and it can be up to 50 pages, which is going to include underwriting for the borrower, like a history section on the borrower. It's going to have repayment ability, which would be balance sheets and income statements. I'm getting really down and dirty here, but
Yeah.
we really need to dig in and we need to put together all the fundamentals of underwriting in that presentation. Every loan has to have a decision, and the usage of technology and just having a template built around that, we're covering all our bases. Repayment ability, there's going to be collateral, there's going to be equity or capital into the project, and then we're going to analyze the owners or guarantors or anybody else individually involved to make sure that there's no warning signs for us to maybe just not be interested in that decision making. We plug all those things together, and that's what's great about the data is you don't miss anything because we do have these templates set up. And when you use the third-party tools or just tools with Excel, you can form all that together, and then it provides you with a credit overview of everything, and then we're going to make a decision based on the credit, all the information in there.
Yeah.
So we're going to risk rate that credit too, or what are the strengths of one area versus another area. So it gets really deep. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, people just want a yes or no. But for us, for internal purposes and or for banking regulations, it goes a lot deeper.
Makes sense. Yeah. I didn't even know you did that much behind the scenes. That's super cool. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different data sources you're pulling from. Sounds like you guys have some templates in place. Throw those in. I'm sure you add some tweaks to it based on each individual or business. I'm sure. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, all those might have skipped it or hit it really fast and furious there, but
Yeah.
your rate that you're given is also dependent upon all those risk categories.
That's true.
So if we're talking about repayment ability and on the business side debt service coverage, if you have a really strong coverage ratio, you're going to be rated higher. If you have collateral that's lower in loan to value, for example, if you have a commercial building and it's worth $1 million and you only have a loan on it of 600, the bank's going to be in a better position than they would if they're at 80% loan to value. That might relate to the pricing of the loan. And then go steps further, if we pull your credit and you have a low credit score, no different than probably your insurance premiums. They're going to be higher because you have a poor credit score. All that data that's entered in there, and then it's plugged into formulas that help us rate the credit, which in hindsight doesn't necessarily have to equate to the rate of the loan, but it really does. If we're going to be taking on a riskier credit or client, we want to get rewarded for that in the risk rate and the right risk pricing. So.
Makes total sense. And you probably are bound to certain interest rates, right? There's probably is there a point where you're like, hey, we can't even go below this number, or even the other way, other regulations in place where you're saying you can't go above that interest rate, or, and I don't know, like or does the bank just decide that? I'm curious to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Or is that
that's the secret to the success.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
I can answer that. For business loans, the rate we want to charge you is going to be based on the risk, as I mentioned. We're not going to give it away for free.
Right.
And it's really going to matter, what is our cost of funds? So the bank has a cost. The money that we're lending out, it's just not free. So it's generated because of our depositors. There's other tools that help us gain access to cash to lend out to you guys. But our primary goal, like I said, is we'd love to see more depositors coming in anytime. So those deposits, we take that and we lend it back out.
Right.
So CD rates might range from 1% to 4%. And if we're taking your money and we're giving you 4% for it, then I'm going to want to lend it out at a margin so that we can make some money. There's other fees here and there regarding loan fees or service charges on deposit accounts that will make income for the bank.
Yeah.
But that's going to be really the driver for the interest rate market today. So if you're in the bank and you're applying for a commercial real estate loan or a home equity or a line of credit and the rate's 7.5%, just imagine the banks, our cost of funds are probably, 2.5 to 3.5%. So we want to make a spread off of that.
Yep.
That's why rates are high right now. Our cost of funds is higher because we're paying out higher on savings accounts or CDs.
Yeah.
So again, that money, take it in and then we're lending it back out. That's just one example where we get funding sources. But regarding the highs or lows, we're not going to we're not going to lend out money at a rate so low we don't make money.
Right.
But there might be clients that we want to take on where our margins are going to be thinner, and some of them it'd be more advantageous to us to take on. Consumer lending, though, has a little bit of a different regulation. We have to be careful that we don't violate overprice. Can't overcharge people, just like you have maximums on your credit cards.
Makes sense.
Again, but we're in the business of making money. Even though we're privately owned, family owned by the writers, we still, our goal is to make money, and that also gives me a paycheck every week too.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely got, as a bank especially, and that having that confidence, like you guys are, having a profit, you're conscious of like deposits and all that. That makes total sense. And I'm going to bring it up again, but that's all data, right? So this is the Data Talks podcast. So yeah, it's just cool to see there's a lot of moving parts, I'm sure, that I'm not even aware of, or maybe most consumers are not, that are behind the scenes, that there's just data moving all over the place in a business and a bank, right? Very cool. Thank you on that.
Yeah, the data is essential. Your money is safe and secure thanks to data. We want to be able to see it so we know what's going on, but also that data has to be viewable by the public.
Right.
It's the integrity of our business model is that you're able to access your funds.
Right.
So we can't have any breakdowns in the system.
Especially if you're a business, you're running payroll, you got to pay your vendors, you have to pay your taxes. There's a lot going on. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we need safe, secure, always on banking, right? So, yeah. All right. We put together a little agenda here. So, yeah, we chatted about the importance of data and addressing power, risk, and creditworthiness. I know you talked on Excel. What are some other technologies that you guys use internally at Granite in commercial lending? Or is it just all Excel? That's fine too.
No, it's not all Excel.
I know bankers love Excel.
I do love Excel. I don't know if email and communication is pivotal.
Right. Yep.
Email hoard. So I take everybody's email, and there's a lot of information to be collected in there with receiving financial statements either electronically and resending it back out so that they have a list of information we need to gather.
Obviously, technology, what we've talked about, it's obviously super essential for you guys. I'm sure it's a big investment. And I think we can disclose this. Data up banks with you guys, and I can contest that their tech is great and customer service is great. The mobile app's great. I don't have any issues. Pick up the phone. You guys fix if there's anything going on, or I'm interested in more products. You're all there tech wise. Communication's good too. I think that's super important. That's one thing. Data up to with emails and instant messaging and stuff, like just being available. And it might just be to you. It's probably just if someone calls about a banking thing, it's so simple to you, but as a consumer or a business owner, like that, whatever you tell me, it can relieve my stress or whatever. Communication, yeah, I think is super key in these businesses.
I think the evolution for me is I know my job and I know how to do it. And I think
Yeah.
the tools that I do for underwriting, I don't, if they evolve more than where they are today, that's fantastic. I don't want to take me away out of the equation though. Being a banker and a lender, my job is sales. I still have to go meet with customers. So there's that physical presence and taking data via site, physical in person or FaceTime or conference calls and all that stuff's important. What I'm trying to say is that if the underwriting process evolves, it might be more online applications. That'd be I don't think I'll ever go away, but
Yeah.
not everybody is. I'm about relationships. Having, as I mentioned earlier, being the quarterback to help them navigate their way through the banking process. But if you're such a strong creditor or borrower that having the face to face and the relationship, you just want to be remote. That's, I may not, it's not as needed that I'm quarterbacking all those relationships. You can just send all that information in there. So
Yeah.
went off on a tangent there, but
Yeah.
you, we can evolve to where online applications become a major advancement where you take out less bankers, less labor costs, and then you have somebody else just doing the underwriting in the back room saying yay or nay.
Sure. Yep.
But that's what I think is the strength of a community bank is having that human touch.
Yep.
So I don't want to take that away from technology, but so I'm happy where the evolvement is there. The real one is just the movement of money and having it safe and secure.
Yeah.
And that's, we talked about wires and ACH.
Yeah.
That's now people can do online wires. You can go into the websites and you can set up all that information, where before you probably had to come into the bank to do a wire, and there's extreme verification processes, but I'm assuming that'll evolve.
Yeah. That'll be awesome. Yeah. So I think that we were going to talk like future of data and banking. I'd be curious to hear like predictions with data analytics and and shape. How will that shape the future of commercial lending? What I'm hearing is maybe there's some more automated processes that could be put in place, or some online forms. And I would agree with you that I don't think it's going to take you away, but maybe it makes you more efficient so you can give out more loans. I don't know, but I would love to hear your insights on that and predictions.
I guess one prediction I would say is, from an automated standpoint, is people's financial statements, whether it be businesses use QuickBooks or any accounting format, and they generate profit, loss, and balance sheets. So they send that to us. I'd eventually assume that at one point that data, we have somebody who takes it in, how we receive it, then I have somebody who enters that data into a spreadsheet format.
Yeah.
But the involvement would be where it's sent to us and it goes directly into another software system and it transfers that into the spreadsheet for us. So we don't have to have a human element. That sounds appealing. I'm all for that, if you can take away the human errors. But the reality is there's so many different formats of accounting that we receive for profit, loss, and balance sheets. And when we're entering in the data, and or there's different credit bureaus where we're taking that data and entering it in, and there's just a lot of different variables. But essentially the involvement for me on the underwriting and lending side of it would be any data you receive, scan it in, or if it's automatically from the electronic, now going straight into our spreading software, which then goes into our loan underwriting presentations. And then from there, you could disperse it to the people who need to approve it. Again, taking out more human element. That's one thing that could really evolve.
For sure.
I know I've seen it a little bit on the level of automation where it could go,
Yeah.
but there's just a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that throw a twist and a monkey wrench in it, so you still need somebody to supervise and clean it up.
Absolutely. I think that's actually a good point for me to hop in here. That process, let's just pick QuickBooks for an example. So at Data Up, we can actually do that for you or just anybody in the banking industry, as long as you're the business owner or whoever shares that information with you, that's pulling data from we call it from a source system. So QuickBooks would be your source system. We get that data, we get it in a format that you want. This is why what I love about Data Up is we are not your cookie cutter company. We are really truly like custom, right? We're going to use different BI tools and we're going to use different softwares to get the data in a spot you want. But that's something that we pride ourselves in. So for your example, maybe we pull in some QuickBooks data, we clean it up, we can write processes that clean it or find issues of the data, and then we can send it to maybe an analyst on your team to look through it and fix it and then give you the final presentation. So that's what we do and love do and we enjoy doing. So yeah, I also foresee that, and that's how I think Data Up would fit in the kind of evolution of banking, analytics, and data.
Yeah, I like that. Just clean up those anomalies for me.
Yeah, and that's where I think the human intervention is always going to be, because I just don't know yet. I know what to do with it, maybe not, or maybe it's just like the human just knows, hey, that anomaly, that's just an anomaly. We need to do something with it. Do we need to ignore it? Do we need to change the value? Do we need to delete the row? I don't know. That's where a human can intervene.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and we could just say that so we keep jobs, right? All right.
Somebody's got to do that stuff.
But yeah, I think we'll just be more efficient in the future. We'll still have somebody making a decision at the end of the day, but I think we'll just be more efficient. Data Up helps more people. You guys get more loans. I'll do well. I might throw a little wild card in here. How does like the banking industry see crypto, right? And I would love to hear your perspective on that. Do you think banks would ever like, let's just say, for example, would they ever hold Bitcoin for their clients? And I don't know. I would love to hear. I know it's a very wild card. We didn't plan for this, but
that one's going to be outside of my toolbox.
Okay. Yeah.
But the bank has worked as a medium for Bitcoin.
Oh, okay.
In the past.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably a couple of years back, we were one of the first banks in the state of Minnesota that was a medium for that.
No way.
And it wasn't my specialty, and I was with Maple Bank, and Maple Bank was acquired by Granite Bank or merged. And so Granite Bank had a very larger presence in the crypto. So that's not my specialty.
Yeah.
Crypto slid away in Bitcoin and all that stuff. But
yeah,
the bank would be very interested in working on Bitcoin stuff, I think, in the future as it evolves.
Right. Yeah.
So my apologies.
That's fine.
I'm not a crypto guy.
I know. We weren't chatting about that, but I'm just thinking of the future. It's got to play a role. I don't know how, but there's got to be a role. And have you heard of like blockchain? So you can store, like, I'm not an expert in blockchain either, but how I understand it, it's backup like agreements between a bank and consumer, a bank and business. It's always in the cloud. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I foresee some of that stuff in the future too. Obviously, there's data behind that, but
yeah, the people got access. You got to convert. Again, not an expert on these.
Yeah.
Currencies.
Yeah.
But you gotta take one currency and have it somehow convert to another currency, right?
Right.
Isn't that the point here?
Yep.
No different than the peso or the euro. So we have to, and Bitcoin, I think, has to be held somewhere. So if you had Bitcoin and it's held in an account, but it's under the Granite Bank umbrella, so you can see it's in its own account, like you probably would if it was at a brokerage company.
Right.
So that's where we would play a role.
All right.
And I'm not familiar with blockchain, but if it's similar, that's my thought process on that. We're a medium to help, access that stuff.
Yeah.
And banks we already have a lot of other, well, it's your money.
Yeah.
You hold it near and dear. You're going to hold your Bitcoin near and dear.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's my prediction, but we'll see. We'll check this video in 10 years and see if we were right or wrong. I know we're wrapping up here, but any advice on businesses seeking loans for you guys? Would love any tips on how they can use their data to improve the loan success, right? I think we already touched on that. If you have a QuickBooks income statement, balance sheet, having those come to you with those data points and reports I'm just curious, any advice there for any business owners listening in?
Yeah, our job is to underwrite the client.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to be required to provide financial information, albeit it's your information and you keep it tightly held. But your personal information, we're going to gather tax returns. You have to level up, and you're going to use either online tax program or you're going to use an accountant.
Yeah.
But regarding the business side of it, that's where I think the important factor is what you're talking about is a lot of small businesses still don't use any kind of accounting software. They have to evolve.
Wow.
And so
It's 2025 now.
yeah, but not everybody's providing profit, loss, and balance sheets.
Really?
The small business.
Small.
So that's the run-of-the-mill, your neighbor, a contractor.
Sure.
They have to be educated on how to use that software.
Right.
But it ultimately is a good tool. Why wouldn't I want to know where I'm at, the status of my business? And that's what accounting information is. And it's just a great tool for us and to have it accurate. If as you said, the source, if the source is bad, the output's going to be bad.
Right.
Data, let's get everybody up and running, and their network and their data and how to complete it. And you need to be there.
I agree. What do they say too? Crap data in, crap data out. Right. That's the nice way to say it.
Yeah.
But well, cool. Anything else you wanted to touch on today? I think this was a really cool conversation. I learned a lot, but anything you'd like to close with? Or any way people can reach you? I think that would be good as well.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a dad up.
Yeah.
To reach me, you can come into the Granite Bank office in Champlin. We're at 11660 Theater Drive in Champlin. You can reach me by phone at 763-498-1771 and certainly by email. I'd love to hear from you. Even if you just want to run something by me, I'd be happy to help. Or if you have any feedback about this podcast.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah. You could just tell Derek he can just avoid me or put it in the comments or something.
Yep.
So
I'm going to build your network. No. That's what the expert's for.
Yeah.
Solution provider.
That's right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I guess my closing remarks is, we can help Data Up can help banks as well. We have some of our team has actually worked for a big bank like Wells and stuff, so we understand that. But yeah, we can help you with some of those examples you brought up, or just maybe you're a leader at a bank, or you're an executive, or something, and you just need a report from your banking data internally. We can build that for you. So just want to highlight that. And we can be tool agnostic, right? We have tools we recommend, obviously, but if you have tools in place, we can use those too. So, all right. Well, cool. All right. Thanks, Derek.
Appreciate your time. For having me on.
Yeah, definitely.